Baltimore Mechanics from like 1997 or something read, our problem in Louisiana is our employees there are good. It's our politically appointed managers. I was asked one time, how many managers do we have how many managers work at our Louisiana Department of Motor Vehicles? And I said about half. Let me ask you a couple of questions. First, do you understand your participation in Boys and Girls Club? Tell me about that briefly.
Thank you, Senator, for that question. So as a youth, I grew up, that was like my home away from home. From the time I was 9 years old, till I went off to college.
Yeah, it's a really good organization.
Absolutely.
Every year or two, Mr. Denzel Washington, who's one of the 5 coolest people on the planet, comes up here to lobby for money, not for himself, for the Boys and Girls Club, so I've had a chance to get to know a little bit about it. You work at well, let me ask you this. Do you think America is mostly good or mostly bad?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. I believe that America is the greatest country in the world. I don't know in any other country where I could be in this position to come from, where I come from, and be in a position to be nominated to the Sixth Circuit and be speaking to senators. I could have never imagined this happening. And maybe it happens in other countries, but it's the greatest country in the world to me.
I agree with you. Look, I don't know whose fault it was, but you may want to go back and talk to your friends at the White House. It's very unfortunate that Senator Blackburn and Senator Hagerty didn't have a chance to sit down with you. And I don't want to get into whose fault it was, but it's the White House's job to make sure that happens, if they really care about what we think. And I gave the same speech to employees at President Trump's White House as well. For a while, my experience with some of the people in charge at the Trump White House was different from Senator Durbin's. I was brand new, and their attitude toward me was pretty cavalier. It's just sort of sit down and shut up, and it's not cool when our nominees don't take it upon themselves if the White House doesn't encourage it to go sit down with the senators. It's not fair. It puts us in a horrible position. It's disrespectful. You're going to be appointed, if you're confirmed, to one of the most powerful jobs on the planet. And that's not an exaggeration. Lifetime appointment. I wish you'd deliver that message. Tell me in the few minutes I have left, tell me that your work, well, let me try this. It's been suggested you don't have any experience, okay? And you don't have the experience to be on the Court of Appeal. Can you address that? Tell me what your answer is to that.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy, for that question. Throughout my career, I've handled 23 appeals to conclusion. I have one matter pending before the Sixth Circuit. In the vast majority of the appeals that I've handled, I have been the primary drafter of those of the appellate briefs. I've argued 10 cases to the Tennessee Court of Appeals and the Tennessee Court of Criminal Appeals. I have not argued a case to the Sixth Circuit. Additionally, I have significant trial experience, having tried 19 cases in federal court and state court, and that doesn't take into account I've litigated hundreds of cases. As you know, some cases are sometimes resolved by settlement, some by dispositive motions. So I have that experience as well.
Okay, I'm over time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Senator Kennedy. I want to make a matter of record here. When Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett was nominated to Kennedy, I went a little over. You're welcome to do the same if you wish.
Thank you, my friend. Congratulations to all of you. I hope to be able to ask each of you some questions, but I do want to stay within my my time limit. Let's start with Ms. Clark. You've been nominated by President Biden to serve on the federal district court, which means, of course, that the Court of Appeal is going to review all of your decisions. What is the appellate standard of review for a question of fact?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I have not worked on an appeal in my 14 years of experience. I believe that it is reviewed based on abuse of discretion would be this.
No, it's clear error.
Clear error.
As the federal district court judge, you're going to have a lot of discretion on determining facts. How about if somebody appeals one of your decisions and they say you made a mistake on the law? What's the appellate standard review?
Thank you for the question, Senator. Again, I mentioned I have not worked on appeals. If a question like that came before me, I would thoroughly research the law. I understand that there's de novo review, abuse of discretion, and clear error are the different standards.
Okay, but you don't know today.
Yeah. Thank you for the question, Senator. It would be something that I would need to research further.
How about a mixed question of fact and law? What's the standard of review on that?
Thank you for the question, Senator. Again, my understanding are that the different levels of review are de novo, abuse of discretion, and clear error.
Well, but that's a question of law and fact is different.
Thank you for the question, Senator. Again, in my 14 years of experience, that is not an issue that has confronted me.
Okay. All right. Well, you've been nominated for the Southern District, I think. Is that right?
That is correct.
So you'll see a lot of securities cases?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me what SEC Rule 10b-5 is.
That's a rule that deals with fraud. I have not litigated a securities matter. If I were to confront one, I would thoroughly research Second Circuit and Supreme Court precedent, and I would apply the law to the facts.
Did you see what it just did? You switched our enterprise to Ohio Global OS, so now we can do our payroll and payments operation on a single platform? Yes. It's like our CFO, not a CFO, or their CFO? And now that I pull it.
Ms. Clark, you've been nominated to the Southern District of New York. It's where most of our securities Rule 10b-5 is about as basic as you can get. You want to take another crack at that and tell me what Rule 10b-5 does?
Thank you again for the question, Senator. I regularly confront new issues of law in my practice, and when I do, I thoroughly research the issue.
I know you're going to thoroughly research it, but are you telling me today you don't know what Rule 10b-5 is?
I only have that basic understanding.
Okay. All right. Let me ask Ms. Franklin and Ms. Williams a question. Your jurisdiction, let me be sure I get the title correct. Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Board. I got that right? Your jurisdiction is pretty broad, isn't it?
So the jurisdiction is broad in some ways in that the board has oversight over counterintelligence programs across the intelligence community with regard to privacy and civil liberties, but it's focused on counterintelligence it's focused on counterterrorism, not all privacy and civil liberties issues.
Right. Okay. I think this is a very important board. I'm sitting here thinking, we spent 3-4 years with some, not all, I'm going to emphasize that, but some, not all members of our FBI and our Department of Justice selling the Steele dossier. Does that embarrass you?
So Senator, I think, there have been 3 Inspector General reports with regards to some of the things that went on, and I think that the recommendations in them are a good
Well,
recommendation.
let me ask you this, do you think the Steele dossier is true?
Well, Senator, I have no basis to believe that it's true or either way.
You don't have an opinion?
I mean, I don't have any factual basis to know whether or not I do. From what I've read, it sounds like there's some concerns with the way it was procured.
So I don't understand. Do you believe it's true or not true?
So, but from the news reports, it sounds like there may be falsehoods in it. But again, I don't have personal knowledge of it.
Ms. Franklin, do you have an opinion on whether it's true or not true?
I also have not had access to read the dossier, but I can say that I share your concern.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's true. I want to understand where you're coming from. Do you believe it's true or not true?
I believe that the Inspector General of the Justice Department found significant problems in 3 reports, including 17 significant errors or omissions in FISA applications regarding
So you
Carter
believe
Page.
it's not true?
I believe that the Inspector General found these errors and omissions, which find the Inspector General's report very convincing, yes.
Okay. So you don't believe the Steele dossier is true? Why is it so hard for y'all to tell me what you think here? That's pretty basic.
I would turn to the errors and omissions that the Inspector General did point to, which were significant, and I know that Congress has attempted to take steps to address those.
Well, here's what I'm getting at. I mean, I can tell y'all the one answer, and I really, really regret that. I mean, this to me it's not political. It was these allegations that turned out not to be true. It doesn't matter who they were about. But some members of our federal government put the full force and weight of the power of the office behind this dossier. And it didn't matter who they were. And I can't believe you can't agree with me that it's not true. I mean, there have been 3 inspectors general reports. Where was your agency? Did anybody at your agency stand up and say, wait a minute, before we make all these allegations on the basis of the Steele dossier, shouldn't we check whether they're true? I mean, FBI Director Comey sold this thing for 5 years. James Clapper was prepared to make a public statement that we're not sure if the dossier is accurate, and Director Comey called him and said, no, don't say that. Where were you guys at the board? You're supposed to protect civil liberties. You're supposed to protect privacy. Does it matter whose privacy and civil liberties are being infringed? Either one.
So, Senator, I wasn't at the board, I haven't been at the board yet, but I agree with you that that is exactly the role of the Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Board, right?
Thank you.
To ensure that the privacy and civil liberties of Americans are taken into account, and to make sure that our intelligence agencies are being completely forthright and truthful with the decisions.
Thank you for that. Well, you were there, Ms. Franklin, right? You were there?
No, Senator.
Okay, well, when you both get there, I wish you would talk to your colleagues over there. They ought to hide their heads on a bag. They're in charge of protecting American civil liberties and privacy. And it doesn't matter who's sucking on their teeth like a bump on a log and never said a word. I'm done. Thank you for your indulgence, Mr. Chairman, and I like your haircut.
Haven't had one in a while.
And you think all this shit funny. And none of this shit is funny to me, man. We being played by the elite assholes, and they laugh and make buku fucking money off us being assholes. Some straight up fucking bullshit. And we just go along and get along. Wow. Straight up bullshit. Fucking shame we allowing these criminals to just fuck me over.
Welcome, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Senator.
Mr. Secretary, do you agree with the President that we should ban the private ownership of assault weapons in America?
Senator, I do.
What is an assault weapon?
It is, for example, an AK-47.
Can you give me a definition other than just pointing to a specific weapon? Would there be other weapons besides an AK-47 you would ban?
There very well are, and I remember when I was a federal prosecutor in the Central District of California from September 25th, 1989 to, I believe it was
Bitch, you ought to be in
April
prison for what the
2001.
fuck you done did to this boy.
All of the law enforcement, the vast majority of law enforcement officers, leaders with whom I worked were greatly in support of the assault weapons
Mr.
ban.
Chairman, you know why we get so frustrated with you? Because you won't give straight answers.
Never.
I think I just
He's a
did.
fucking criminal. That's why he don't give straight answers. He's a fucking criminal who should never be trusted, and he should have been fucking fired.
I'm confident there is a technical definition
Wow.
of what is an assault weapon.
Wow. But
and
you
it
don't
was,
know.
assuredly used,
You want to ban something that you don't know nothing about. Man, fuck y'all. Y'all was paying these bitches all this fucking money for what?
Mr. Secretary, our southern border is not secure, is it?
Senator, I have spoken about this. I believe I've addressed this earlier in the hearing.
Why don't you address it again?
Sure, of course. Let me share with you a few things. Number one, when I speak of the security of the border, I'm speaking of maximizing the resources we have to deliver the most effective results. So let me assure you that we are doing
secure because we're trying to secure. Are we succeeding?
Senator, we are so focused on the security of our southern border.
Bitch, you are a waste of taxpayers' money. And you're a fucking criminal, should be in prison.
How you're not succeeding?
Oh, Senator, let me share with you that the challenge of migration that we are experiencing at our southern border is not exclusive to the United States. It is something that is gripping the entire
But
hemisphere.
my job is to worry about the
Thank
United
you.
States.
Thank you.
Fine.
And that's your job. And that's your job.
My question, let me try to rephrase it. And I really do wish, I understand the position you're in, but you really should try to do a better job of answering the questions. Under the Biden administration, we have the most encounters. We have had the most encounters with people attempting to come into our country illegally under the country. Under the Biden administration, we have had the most gotaways at our southern border in the history of ever. Under the Biden administration, we have had the most number of people entering our country under a claim of asylum, having that claim turned down and still not being deported in the history of ever. And under the Biden administration, we've had the most fentanyl coming into our country in the history of ever. How can you possibly say the southern border is secure? Do you understand your answer that you're trying, but I'm not asking about your efforts. I'm asking about the results.
So let's talk about the results then, Senator. Do you know that last year we expelled and removed approximately 1.4 million people from the southern border? I believe that's the most ever. Do you realize that we are focused on enforcing our laws to achieve the security of the southern border?
I know you're focused, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. Secretary, but you're not succeeding.
Senator,
when you come testify to us, you talk about how you're trying really hard. And I don't have any way to disprove that. I accept that statement in good faith. But the numbers belie that.
If I can, Senator, let me give you an example of a solution that we have delivered that for some reason is being contested. Because it's caused a 95...
30 seconds, okay?
It's caused a 95...
Don't filibuster me.
It's
You've
caused...
been doing that all day. I'm just trying to
communicate. It has led to a approximately 95% drop in the number of encounters in between ports of entry at our southern border of Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans.
Mr. Secretary,
on January 5th. And why would that be opposed when it is delivering precisely the result that you seek?
Did you just parachute in from another planet, Mr. Secretary? Because you're the only person in the Milky Way who believes that we're not having massive illegal immigration into America.
Senator, you're putting words into my mouth.
No, sir, I'm accurately describing the situation.
There is no question that we have a very serious challenge at our southern border.
Okay,
it is a challenge.
We can agree on that. Let me ask you another question. Why don't you just declare a new policy?
That boy said, why don't you declare a new policy? We'll show you how much you don't give a fuck about him.
That other than children, if you present at the southern border, you claim refugee status, you claim political asylum, and you haven't claimed refugee status and political asylum at the first safe country, then you can't come in.
Senator, so first of all, when one presents at the border, it's an asylum claim.
Well, why don't you do that? Why don't you just unilaterally declare that a safe third country policy, it would work. You can't come into America. If you're coming from Venezuela and you come through Mexico, if you didn't claim asylum in Mexico, you can't come here. You have to leave. Why don't you just do that?
Senator, let me give you an example with respect to Mexico. A safe third country agreement, let's hypothetically assume...
You don't have to have an agreement with Mexico.
Yes, you do.
No, you don't.
I believe you do.
No, you don't. Other countries don't do it. Just adopt a policy that says, except for children, because you don't want to send children back by themselves. Just adopt a new policy that if you didn't seek asylum in the first safe third country, you can't come in, period.
Senator, are you aware of the notice of proposed rulemaking that we issued, the comment period of which closed yesterday?
You've had 2 years to adopt a policy like I just described. Why haven't you done it?
So, Senator, what we have done is
But why haven't you done that?
we have surged enforcement resources. We have
Why haven't you
developed.
just adopted, please if you would, Mr. Secretary, answer my question.
It is my
Why
understanding.
haven't you adopted unilaterally a safe third country policy? That would stop, except for children, all the folks from the Northern Triangle countries, all the folks from Venezuela, all the folks from Cuba, all the folks from the Middle East from coming into our country. Why haven't you done that?
Senator, it's my understanding that those are two things. It is my understanding that those agreements do require.
You don't have to have an agreement with anybody. It can be a policy established by the Department of Homeland Security.
Senator, I'd have to. I would have to review the legal underpinnings of your
Well, you
assertion.
better get reviewing.
And I also.
You ought to
do
get
not-
reviewing. This is the first time that's occurred to you.
I also do not think that that is sound policy.
You don't think this is the first time that's occurred to you?
I also do not think that that is sound policy, that we should shut down our entire asylum system.
I didn't say shut down the entire asylum system. I said safe third country. All you have to do, Mr. Secretary, if you're really serious, and it's beginning, frankly, to appear that you're not, is adopt a policy that says we're not seeking anyone's agreement. We don't have to. If you're coming from another country and you come through, let's say Mexico, and you say you're seeking asylum, you have to seek it in Mexico or the other first safe third country, or you can't come in. Period. Done. End of story. Why don't you do that?
Senator, I don't think that we have the unilateral authority.
Sure you do. Other
Number
countries
one, and
do it.
number two, as
Have
I
you
mentioned,
tried sneaking into China?
as I've mentioned, I do not think that is sound policy.
Why?
Because you are basically shutting down our asylum system.
No, you're not. You're saying we honor your right to seek political asylum. But you're cherry picking. Do it in Mexico first. Why haven't you done that?
I think I've addressed that issue, Senator.
You don't want to do it, Mr. Secretary. That's what it's beginning to look like. Because you think our borders ought to be open. And it would be more intellectually honest if you just say that.
That is false.
I don't agree with you. You have to watch up here what people do, not what they say, and everything else is just cottage cheese.
Senator, I don't think the 1.4 million people who were expelled or removed last year would consider the border open.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Secretary, you've had millions coming into the country illegally. The most of the history of ever under your watch. And everybody knows that, apparently, except you. Either that or you're not being forthcoming with
We've
it.
also had the largest number of individuals expelled or removed from the southern border. And if one takes a look at the apprehension and encounter numbers, and then the removal numbers, one would have a different view.
If you do the safe third country policy, that'll solve half of your problem right there.
Thank
And
you,
you're
Senator.
not denying anybody asylum.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy. Senator Ossoff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Secretary Mayorkas. I'd like to discuss with you the H-2A visa program, whereby, as you know, agricultural workers can pursue a visa legally to work in the United States to support the production of food in our country. And this is a program, of course, that's extensively utilized by our agricultural sector, important for our food security.
But it gets deeper than that on levels once you in. See, the deal may go through before you see how deep it really is. I'm talking about if the deal, if something didn't, if y'all had a falling out, the deal didn't go through. Or y'all had a falling out after the deal went through. But when it comes to things that you may have to do or they expect you to do to get the deal in the first place, things that they expect you to do once you're on the inside, yeah, it gets deeper than that. And in some cases, life and death deeper. Which pushes me back to my same question. Who are you to think that you can do people like that? Man, y'all better learn about this industry.
Just got whooped in the Senate. It already got whooped in the
And
House.
how
In the Senate,
these
it
folks
was
think, man.
52-46, 49 Republican senators, 3 Democrats, Joe Manchin, Sinema, what's his first name? And John Tester, all running for re-election.
But at the end of the
I
day,
talked to Joe Manchin last time for quite some time.
if y'all hit that like
Talk
button
about
some
that.
more,
Now, Biden's going to veto it because he's a darn fool. But it's just interesting that, you know, they had really a bipartisan revolt going on. So we can talk about that for a moment. We've got Liz Peek, syndicated columnist, Fox News contributor. We've got Guy Benson, political editor, townhall.com, Fox News contributor, host of the Guy Benson Show on Fox News Radio, and DeRoy Murdoch, senior fellow at the London Center for Policy Research and a Fox News contributor, and me. Besides, Senator. He's on the show. Oh, that's right. Guy Benson, I find this quite interesting, and I find it very optimistic. The tide, Guy just says, you might not have liked the McCarthy deal.
So,
I like the McCarthy deal because I think he gets 70%.
I can't always go by
Whatever.
your word.
There's a conservative thing going on in Washington. It's a response to polls and public opinion and some darn thing, Guy Benson. And here's another example of it. Out of the blue, the Senate is saying to Biden, no, we don't like your plan. Now, he'll veto it because he's a damn fool and he's going to get his butt kicked in the
We've
election.
seen what you
What do you think of this?
Well, I think he'll probably get his butt kicked in the Supreme Court on this very issue. Sometime very soon you will have 2.
But your word is supposed to be your bond.
Joe Biden.
Because your truth you live with all day, every
Majorities
day.
reach out, and the Supreme Court. I don't have a crystal ball, but it seems like based on oral argument, that's probably the direction things are going. Because it was illegal, it was massive overreach, and this is what should happen. And I'm glad to see some Democrats coming across on this. I will say my cynical side, John Tester in particular. For 1 year, and I was like, oh, actually, I'm a moderate all of a sudden. I had to point that out.
I never interrupt, yes, but you pulled my chain. He is the worst. So, absolutely. Manchin is more or less defensible, except for the inflation reduction. Sinema, more. Tester, left-winger, up until 3 weeks before the election in Montana.
In Montana, of all
Montana.
places.
Can you
That's
imagine
what
that?
makes me so crazy.
They have
What's he
liberals.
doing?
Why is he still there? They have liberals in Montana. No. My wife's family's from Montana. We're married in Montana, blah, blah, blah. They have a lot of liberals